What's going on, YouTube? I'm SwitchBackMongo, and recently I survived 1,000 days in Hardcore Minecraft. And if somehow you don't know what that is, it's survival Minecraft, locked on the hardest difficulty, and if you die, you can't respawn. That's the end of your world. In this mode with one life, your ability to make quick decisions and avoid panic is the difference between life and death. Now, my 1,000 days was no walk in the park by any means. I've had a couple of close calls, a couple of near deaths, but I've also managed to build a lot. Try to break this video into sections the best I can, and what we're going to start with is the first 100 to 200 days in a hardcore world, because that's the time that you spend trying to get to the end dragon fight, which is the first and probably biggest hurdle you need to get over in a hardcore world. From there, I'm going to break into more of a world tour that's going to cover from day 200 to 1000. I spent a lot of time building, so that's going to be the bulk of the episode. And hopefully along the way I'll have some good tips to give, because I feel like I've picked up a lot after 1,000 days. If we're going to go back to the beginning, we need to take it back to spawn. Why do we need to go back to spawn? Because the first couple of nights are probably the most critical for long-term survival. Spawning in with no armor or weapons, you need to know what to do and where to go to make it the first few nights. Now, there's no denying that this is a pretty bad spawn. I feel like if any speedrunners were to jump in here, they would immediately abandon this seed, but I'm not about that life. When I get a seed, I stick to it. Now, first day is tip number 1. Where do you go when you spawn in a world? Now, this mountain helped me eliminate about 50% of my directions that I could have gone, but what you want to look for, safest bet is always a village. Now, I was lucky enough to pretty much see one from my first tree that I cut down, right over there. Now, why you pick to go to a village is because you can get pretty much everything you need without even having to mine. You don't have to mine at all. You go to a village and you find food, you find armor, you find iron. So, first village, I had hay, got me all of the bread that I could have needed, took everything that I could have needed, and I moved on to village number 2. And village number 3. And I'm pretty sure I left village number 3 fully equipped with all iron tools and all iron armor. I better sleep before mobs start spawning. I don't know why I'm doing a tour in hardcore mode. I should probably make a copy. Oh well, too late. Already started, boss. Now, once I had all my iron tools and armor, I was ready to go look for a place to live, and I wanted to go back towards spawn. But on my way back to spawn, I don't know how I messed it up. Found this nice little lake and thought it'd be a good place to live. I don't know why. I always liked these shattered savanna biomes. Just the generation of them is really cool to me. Now, before we talk about the house, we gotta talk about Acacia Boat. Acacia Boat comes from episode 1, and this is the original Acacia Boat. I don't know why, I crafted one in that third village I visited, and I just really liked saying Acacia Boat, and it quickly became a staple of the series. But anyway, set up my first house. If you know you're gonna go for a long-term world, you just gotta keep your house simple. My first house is just a small box that's spawn-proof and has the essentials inside. Outside, I got a simple cow and wheat farm, pumpkin and melon farm, and a storage room. And that's really all that I needed to make it to the dragon fight. And I lived here for a long time. I didn't move out of here until just before day 1000, actually. I built a whole base before I put another bed in it. Before my first 100 days were over, I also managed to get a zombie villager, turn him into a librarian, for looting 2. I was really looking to get my looting 3 sword to get more ender pearls. Got my enchanting room that's been blown up by me. It wasn't even a creeper, I blew that up. Can't forget that before day 100 I had to find my first end fortress, and I had to kill a bunch of blazes. On day 129 I found the stronghold, and I immediately linked a nether portal to it. It just saves a lot of time. I knew I was going to be coming here a lot even after I fought the end dragon, so figured I'd go ahead and link a portal. Alright, let's talk about the dragon fight. Before you go in, there's always 2 things that I have on my list to take. Obviously, slow falling potions. That dragon can really mess you up if you get hit in the air. And then I always take a pumpkin to put on my head to avoid the enderman, even though I forgot this time. What am I doing not bringing a pumpkin in here, dude? Those are really the only 2 things you need to stay safe, but strength 2 potions are always a +2. It'll just help you get the job done a little quicker. I made sure to get some dragon's breath too before killing it. Not sure what that does. All in all, if you get in there with your slow falling potions and your fully enchanted armor, you should be alright. Alright, congratulations. You made it to the end dragon fight and you came out on top. That's pretty much it for part 1, but this does not mark the end of the game. There's still a lot to do, so let's continue on. First thing I did after beating the end dragon was take my way through one of these portals to go look for my elytra. I always bridge my way across the island because I feel like the worst way that you can die is by a missed ender pearl throw. I have an elytra on and I don't even want to try this. And after hours of bridging, I finally found my first end city and got my first elytra. And actually the only elytra that I've had this whole time. Now that I've beaten the ender dragon and gotten my elytra, I was confident enough to build my enderman farm. Probably the most important thing you can have in a long-term Minecraft world, because when you're trying to get all your enchantments, quickly getting that XP is what you need. Eventually, when I was trying to get my beacons as well, I wanted to set up a kill chamber here for the wither, where he wouldn't be able to move and I could just hit him with the sword until he died. But I managed to mess it up, and the wither ended up getting out, and I had to have a legitimate fight here in the end. Not my most fun experience, but I got it done. Right after the enderman farm was made, I made sure to get an iron farm and a mob spawner. Iron farm's still very messy from when I was struggling to get the villagers in here. Yeah, you went right in. This is one of the things I want to update pretty soon, actually. I want to make it look better, and I want to make it more efficient. The mob spawner works almost too well. It's dropping me so many items that I can't even keep up with it all. I've emptied this chest so many times, and I've just given up on it. I'm sure everyone's seen a mob spawner now. It's just a bunch of spawning platforms and then a redstone loop upstairs that's gonna make water dispense and push all the mobs down to their death. It's also a good place to test out a bunch of scrappy builds, testing out things for my storage room and making my automatic concrete maker. Last thing to talk about before the base is all my pets. You already met Lip Service when I was talking about Acacia Boat. In here I also have Filthy Phil. And then I think this is Tickler over here. Are you Tickler? There he is. I kind of just let him roam free. I can always bring him back home pretty easily. Down here, I also have my chicken one tapped. Everyone's crowding me at the door. Give me some space. And then sadly, letting my pig roam free was a bad idea. My wonderful pig Reese's Puff, I lost about 150 days ago, and I've searched for him for hours, and he's just nowhere to be found. I haven't seen his name in the kill feed, so I'm gonna hope he's out there somewhere and that I'll find him one day. All right, that's officially the end of the first 150 days. From here, we're gonna sort of shift gears. Instead of going with the timeline, we're just gonna go through the base from beginning to end. Starting with the entrance out here that was built around day 950, so we're really going to the very end. Now I decided to build the... What are you doing here? I'm trying to give a tour. I decided to put the entrance here because this hole in the side of the mountain naturally spawned here, and it was in line with the rest of the base that I had built previously. So once I discovered it, I knew this is where I had to come in from. This whole area spawned naturally, and it was wonderful. I added a bunch of touch-up work of all the vines and the leaves, and then I did a bunch of the trees as well. I did not put the spider there. He's just hanging out. The horses have been here pretty much since day 1. I went back to confirm it, and they were certainly in episode 2, just hanging out right where they've been. They have not moved in all 1,000 days, which is just so crazy. I added a hidden little nether display back behind black glass there, as well as a big nether portal, all hidden behind the vines, and it looks really nice at nighttime. But once you make your way through this space, you actually enter the base, starting with this long tunnel that goes down to what is now my new house. So I created a little bit of space within this tunnel to house all the basic needs. I have my bed and my basic tools on one side, and then storage and enchanting room on the other. I also added these 2 little nether displays just to liven it up a little bit. Turned out pretty nice. At the bottom, I have just a couple of memorable items that have made it through the whole 1,000 days. Oldest being this gold hoe that I got episode 1 and used to gather a bunch of bookshelves from villages so that I could make my own enchanting room. Other things like my last stone tool, my first shield, my first Fortune 3 pickaxe, and my iron sword. All still alive. And then this attaches to sort of the middle of the base actually. So why don't we go up to what was originally the beginning. Around day 200, I had my enderman farm and I had the dragon beat, and I was trying to get all my enchantments on my diamond armor. And so I needed a lot of books. And to make a lot of books, I needed a sugarcane farm. So I used a pretty simple redstone loop to punch the sugarcane into the water when it grew, and it works only about half the time. I still have not gone in to fix that, and I probably won't ever. I just like the way it looks. I'd sacrifice getting all the sugarcane for the looks. So I built 4 little frames around this big square room to have all the sugarcane farming in it. I have the chests down at the end with all the sugarcane in it, and I was left with an empty center, and I had to figure out what I wanted to do with it. My original intention was to make this a big jungle room, and then that's when I found out that I hate the savanna biome, because I went and got all these leaves from the jungle, and I came back and I placed them all, and they're brown instead of green, and it just crushed my soul. But I followed through with it anyway, placed all the ugly grass and all the ugly leaves, and it turned out a lot better than I had thought. At the time, this was the most detailed thing that I had ever made. Did some work to make my own vines on the roof, changed out a lot of the stone to make it look like it was some ruins, tried to hide lighting in any place that I could. So I have lighting in the water here, I have lighting underneath the water here, and the end result is still one of my favorite rooms that I've made. I made this little pathway that runs into what looks like a little shed, but is actually the stairs down to the rest of the base. The next episode, I built these stairs as well as my pumpkin and melon farm in this room. This was also the same episode that I fought my first raid on accident, I'm pretty sure. A raid? I wanted to make this room because I wasn't really keeping up with my pumpkin and melon farm outside, so I wanted to make something automatic. Went for the more classical look with the quartz and the nether brick. I've always liked that combination. I used sea lanterns back behind the fences here to light the room as well as shine down onto the pumpkins and the melons. Carving out this room, I ran into a whole bunch of issues. There is a river running right above the ceiling here that I had to fill in and then terraform around it. It was just a big mess at the time. The end of the hall I left closed for a while, but I eventually opened it up for my beacon room. I kind of like the way it looks down at the end. It looks sort of like it's pixel art. In here I also have my storage for the pumpkins and melons. That one's full. That one's not full. It's not as efficient as some of the industrial farms you see, but for a solo player, I trade daily and this is plenty of pumpkins for me. Back behind the beacon is where we connect to the entrance tunnel and continue on with the base. In episode 9, I carved out this whole space without really knowing what it would be. I was trying to figure out what I wanted it to be, and I was still running with my wheat and my cow farm that was upstairs next to my house. They got really annoying because in all of my recordings, when I'd run past the cow farm, it would just overpower all of the audio. So I was like, I should come up with something to sort of hide the cows away, and I also needed more wheat. My wheat farm was not big enough to support all of the beef that I was needing, mainly just because I wasn't keeping up with it. So I made a better semi-automatic wheat farm where I can just flip a switch and harvest all of the wheat. Very nice. In the center is where I have my cows, and they're just out of earshot, and it's beautiful. I can get down there to feed them from these stairs here. Yeah, I did not miss this sound. Let's get out of here. I tried to put lighting in this room wherever I could so that I wouldn't have to use torches or lanterns. So sea lanterns in the ceiling design, glowstone in the water here, end rods around the edges, and then sea lanterns underneath black glass, underneath water in the floor. All does a pretty nice job. I feel like Minecraft Vanilla just doesn't do this room justice. And that's really just because of the water. When you have shaders on and the water actually looks like water, it makes the room just look way better. Moving on, I have the stairs down to the center of my base, and I spent a lot of time on this. I tried to make it look like a prismarine brick frame holding up ruins, and I think we accomplished it pretty well. It definitely looks ruined. I just liked having all of the ores peeking through the ruins. It's pretty nice. Now into the main room. Even with a Haste 2 beacon, carving this room was a project in of itself. You may have noticed the giant tower of coal outside my house, and that was all gathered from this room here. It's my #1 coal supply, and I still haven't even finished mining it. From the very beginning, I imagined this frame to fill up the room that was filled with water and a bunch of ocean life as well, even though that was one of the last things I built in here. I started out carving this room, and then I got to the floor design. Floor design like this was one of the last things I did in my 1.15 world, and I never even finished it, so I was really happy to get it done here. In that same episode, I also built this nether tree to go in the center, and then from there, I'm pretty sure what I did was start this village around the edge. I wanted to have a village in my base, so I started out by building all of these houses for them. I wanted to give them houses because I feel like trapping villagers in a box is just inhumane, and I don't have the heart to do it. So I designed all of them houses, and I decorated them all, and then I didn't even end up using them. Because as I started breeding villagers, the iron golems spawned in, and one of them almost killed me. So I had to kill a bunch of villagers, which just broke my heart to do. I actually hated doing that. Oh no. and then limit it down to these 3. I also built this prismarine brick frame around the room with shroom lights in the center, designed and built all of these walls. I also had space carved out in the floor below for my auto sorter. My auto sorter turned out to be one of my favorite rooms in the base. Something about the wood and the dark prismarine combination just has a really, really nice style. But not only is it my favorite room because of the design, it's also where Switchback Puppo is right now. My dog that I got on day 500. What is up, buddy? And he's just the best partner to have as I built all of this. He loves his pumpkin and I don't take him anywhere without it. Here, you can sit here for just another minute, right? Good boy. The storage room is actually an auto sorter hidden back behind the walls here. I made sure to leave space so that I could access that whenever it breaks. I don't even want to talk about how much redstone and how many hoppers this took. It is just unreal amounts. I have the one in the floor below all built up. I just don't have items in the hoppers yet, so I haven't decided what's gonna go down there. Also, in the bottom floor of the storage room, I made a room for my shulkers. Some of them I have elsewhere for projects right now, but I sorted them all by color and the extra ones just go on the edges here. Pretty simple room. So now let's talk about the biggest project I did, the big coral capsule that was upstairs. It actually all started down here in the storage room. I knew I wanted it to be connected from bottom to top, and it was just easiest to start from the bottom. So I dug out the floor in the storage room, I filled the whole thing up with water, and then I went in to start placing all of the coral around here. I made some structures as well that help light up the space. The sea pickles alone didn't do enough to keep this room bright. I have a bunch of fish that I brought in here, as well as a sea turtle. I have one sea turtle down here, and I just saw him a minute ago. There he is. He just kind of swims around all day, and he loves it. The 4 columns around the edges connect up to the top of the coral capsule. So here we are back in the main room, and then we work our way up to where I have more sea turtles. This is where I spawned them, but they're not even using the sand. They're like on the very edge. I can just push them right off. Yep, get in there. I started this whole thing off with placing the prismarine fence as well as the sea lanterns. I knew I would need more variation than just the coral itself, so I placed all the prismarine work first and then had the coral sort of stem off of that. I really just made sure to place as much plant life as I could up here. I wanted it to look as natural as possible. And I think given that it's a glass box with coral in it, it looks pretty good. And if I'm being completely honest, I think this is another build where vanilla Minecraft just doesn't do it justice. It's pretty much anything that involves water does not look as good as it can in vanilla. That's probably because water is the one thing that changes the most when you turn shaders on. The shaders really just take this space up a notch. I had sat on this idea for weeks. I think it spanned from episode 9 all the way to episode 16 before I actually got it done. And normally when I have an idea that I don't build for that long, it doesn't end up as great as I had thought, but this one may have been better than I imagined. The ceiling may have been one of the last things that I built in here, and it really just completes the room. And that's really the end of the base. I spent 1,000 days on just my base, and honestly it's a good way to play. Keeping yourself distracted with long-term build projects saves you from doing things that might actually kill you. But we still have 2 more builds to talk about that I did while I was working on the base. Let's go. Now, somewhere before day 500, I had to build my guardian farm, and that's the same episode that I had to get my trident, which was one of my favorite moments in the series. Oh, yeah, dude! Yeah. Woo! The design of it's pretty simple, common theme with my builds, but it works phenomenally. I mean, look at that thing. I could sit here and watch this all day. As a guy who uses prismarine in almost every build, this may be the most important farm that I've made so far. And the last non-base thing that I worked on was my wither skeleton farm. And it works decently. I haven't finished spawn-proofing the area, but it's fast enough for me to get all my beacons that I need. Oh, look, it's working. I've actually built 2 of these farms. I started out with a design that used 4 dogs instead of a piglin in the center. But that design had a lot less spawn area than this one here, so I opted for this. Puppo, do you want to help me out the last little bit here? Let's make sure to get your pumpkin, though. Okay, the very last thing that I built. With the last few hours before day 1000, I wanted to end off the base with Acacia Boat, bringing it full circle from episode 1 to episode 17 where I hit day 1000. I made it overgrown like the entrance to the base because it's a boat that's lasted 1000 days. It's gonna be old and gross, but I wanted to make it something permanent that would stay here for as long as I'm alive. And with that, you've seen my 1000 days in Hardcore Minecraft. If you want to see more of how I got here, because I had to cut a lot of it out if you can't tell, check out my series. I have the whole playlist on YouTube. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like and subscribe, because this series isn't over for me. Now I begin the push to day 2000. So if you want to see what happens next, be back here next Wednesday. I'll have a new video, or you can follow me on Twitch to see me on Friday. I have a link in the description. And that's it, Puppo. We did it. Puppo wants to say thanks too. Take us out, Puppo.